Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Wednesday. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all my goblins and ghouls to Wednesday. Timstradamus, I have another joke for you. What's a zombie's favorite weather?
A zombie cane?
I like that. But it's actually cloudy with a chance of brain.
Okay. For our new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
So, Voyse, what tea have you brewed this morning?
I brewed to you a basic tea. I actually got black tea and I combined it together with a prepared tea bag of green jasmine tea.
Okay.
It's delicious for people who enjoy like the natural flavors of tea.
Yeah, it's a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I kind of figured
It's
for
still,
you.
It's still good, though.
Well, let's go ahead and delve right into these stories. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for only giving a car to my daughter and not my wife's daughter? My wife and I have been together for 20 years. We have 2 beautiful daughters. My daughter, Bella, 18, and my wife's daughter, Caroline, 19. I am both their biological father. However, I have more of a bond with Bella, and my wife is the same with Caroline. Last Tuesday, Bella turned 18. I bought Bella a new car. It was a Mercedes S-Class, and we had to save for quite a while to be able to afford it. Bella loved it so much and was so grateful. Caroline was livid. Caroline cried to me and her about it being unfair. My wife confronted me, asking why I did not give Caroline the same gift for her 18th birthday. I told my wife that if she thought Caroline deserved such a nice gift, then she should put her money where her mouth is. Well, my wife has not been listening to or speaking to me, and Caroline has been being a little bit of a brat, begging Bella to give her a turn with the car. My wife called me a father for favoring one daughter over another. I do not feel this is the case, but I am beginning to feel guilty because Caroline is taking it out on Bella. Am I in the wrong?
So our OP says that he's been in a marriage for 20 years?
Correct.
And both the children in this situation are his biological. And he's playing that type of favoritism?
Yes. I think for us, at least based on our previous stories, we've only ever seen this type of favoritism when it comes to the perspective of the children, whether it's the golden child or the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
This is the first time I think we've ever read into a story where you hear the blatant favoritism coming directly from the parent itself.
Normally, as a parent, you try not to do those type of things. Now, we can fight all day about whether or not that actually exists when you have kids, but for everyone, it's a little different. For some people, when they do say they don't have a favorite, they actually mean that. But a lot of the time, you can see, like in this case, this OP definitely has a favorite child.
To go so far as to say my daughter versus my wife's daughter.
Yes, which that's a really weird way of wording that because it is still your daughter.
Well, let me go ahead and provide you with an OP comment based on that. Being a father is not just genetics. I have love and respect for Caroline, but we do not click like Bella and I do. Yes, they are both my daughters, but one is unconditional, and one is only my daughter on the biological sense. I love both my daughters equally.
I don't think you do. What? Does he not read what he writes? The way he's going about defending himself, because he definitely has played favoritism in this. OP, you're definitely an a-hole.
So, from what our OP was saying, they actually put down that him and his wife own a joint bank account. And that's where he essentially purchased the car from. So to turn around and tell his wife that she should put her money where her mouth is didn't really fly so well when it came to our Redditors. When it comes to how he's responded to our commenters, I don't think our OP really has respect for his wife either. And the only reason why I say this is let me read this comment so that you can go ahead and also tell me your feedback on this one. My wife and I have a joint bank account. So I said we. She wasn't exactly on board, but since it was both our money, I said we to give her some credit.
Oh, man. Yeah, this guy is certified wiener jacket.
Well, the consensus was our OP is definitely the a-hole, and it didn't take long for them to pull down that post.
Can I ask really quickly, what did the other daughter get for her 18th birthday?
I don't think that they got anything.
Hold the phone. So you gave one of your daughters a Mercedes, and then the other one got nothing.
You know, of all the comments that he's put down, I don't see anywhere where he said that he gave her any type of gift, such as a car, whether it's new or used. Now, I think, at least based on our Redditors' viewpoints, there's two that really stems. One, a lot of people pray that this is not a real story. They say that they hope that the OP is clearly not as self-centered to go ahead and not realize what their actions are doing, especially in their family. And then, of course, the majority of the rest say, if this is very much a real story, you are by far the a-hole. And how could you even come on here and expect that anybody would side with you? Well, let's go ahead and step away from this story and go into our next one. Am I the a-hole for belittling my sister and saying she shouldn't demand her husband help her with their baby at night? My husband and I, 29 male, 27 male, went through the surrogacy process and had our son 4 months ago. We were thrilled when my sister, 31 female, announced her pregnancy, and we found out we would be having children very near the same time. Our niece was born a little over 2 months after our son. My situation and my sister's closely mirror each other. Our husbands both work typical 9-to-5s with 30 to 45-minute commutes. My sister is a stay-at-home and I do freelance work from home. For the first 2 weeks after our son was born, the first of which my husband took off of work, we would both take partial night shifts. Once I felt like I had at least some of my bearings on parenthood, I offered to take over completely on weeknights, while he does mornings before work plus weekends. It's a collaborative process, and that breakdown of parenting just made sense to me. My husband was the one leaving our home to work every day. He was the one who had to be up by a specific time and make a drive. At 4 months, we no longer have this obstacle anymore, and to be honest, I kind of miss the sweet, quiet bonding time those extra night feeds provided now that he's settled onto a nice sleep schedule and usually only wakes up once. Still, I think we got it down to almost the perfect science before we exited the newborn stage. My sister, on the other hand, is very much still in that phase and struggling. This has been a reoccurring problem for her from the beginning. She has been coming to me saying she's scared she's going to fall asleep holding the baby, that her husband won't help her with the night feeds, etc. I tried to give her tips since I've been through it. I suggested she let her partner take over in the evenings, about 6 to 9 p.m., so she can go to bed early and catch a few more hours, nap when the baby naps, etc. She shot down everything, saying that wouldn't work for them, and that she just needed her partner to do some of the night feedings. I reminded her that her husband is the one commuting in the mornings, and falling asleep while driving was a very real possibility, and that I had lived through it, and so could she. I then offered to watch her daughter for a few days so she could catch up on sleep. She took major offense to both of these things. She said I was belittling her experience and acting like I was a better parent. She said I couldn't truly empathize with her and give her valuable tips since she had been pregnant and I hadn't, and that me offering to watch my niece just felt like me saying she needed help raising her own daughter. My intentions were definitely not malicious, and I'd like some outside perspective here. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm a man. Saw some people calling a woman in the comments, just wanted to clarify.
All right. So OP and his husband got a child through surrogacy at around the same time as his sister, which is very interesting how life kind of works out sometimes.
Serendipitous.
So he's been able to kind of walk the path before his sister. It was only a 2-month head start, but he was able to walk it before her.
Correct.
Now, there is something there that needs to be said. he did not give birth to that child the same way his sister did. She would be healing and going through a whole other slew of issues in these first couple months than what he was dealing with, which was basically just learning how to conform to a sleep schedule that a baby gives you. So at the end of the day, I'm going to kind of leave it here. ROP is 100% in my viewpoint the a-hole. I'm so happy that ROP has a partner that he can communicate with and talk to and work with. It does take a lot of work on both ends to make sure both of you make it out with your faculties. And it sounds like he's gotten that with his partner. Great job. He's not looking at it the way you should. When he's talking to his sister, he's basically making it sound like his sister should just, because her husband is working, just deal with all the problems. Learn how to cope with it. That's not how it should be. I don't care if the man's the one staying home, right? If the roles are reversed, he still has a right to feel the way his sister feels. Instead of just going, it is what it is, just deal. It should have been, maybe you guys need to go get yourself into some type of counseling because your husband seems to think that what you're going through isn't worthy enough of him trying to help. That's an issue within a relationship. And if that's showing itself now, that stuff normally doesn't get better without help. And for the record, it doesn't matter if someone has to get up and drive and wake up in the morning for work. Everyone deals with that. Everyone has kids. It's not an excuse not to help take care of the baby at night when your wife's been taking care of it all day and needs sleep.
Well, the consensus was our OP is definitely the a-hole. And the reason for this consensus, aside from everything that you pointed out body-wise, when it comes to our OP's sister has had to deal with these physical changes. She is still healing. And for a lot of women, it's suggested that they wait at least 18 months before they go through another pregnancy to make sure that their bodies have bounced back in a healthy manner. But on top of that, they actually put down, how is it that you could say that there's danger in her husband driving tired be any different from the danger of dropping a baby? As if her concerns are not valid. And I think that's where a lot of individuals came out to say that that's a wrong way to look at things. And why, in this instance, this post actually got the poo mode, which means that they go to the proctologist only orifice.
The poo mode?
The poo mode. So let me go ahead and provide you with a small update from our poster. Small update here, but the too long don't read of it all is that I have apologized because I was definitely the a-hole for those comments, even if I didn't intend to be. My sister accepted said apology, and hopefully moving forward, I can truly be the listening ear she needed and not someone who offers solutions that weren't asked for, especially when our circumstances aren't all that similar. My husband has clearly been taking on many more parenting duties than hers, and she and my niece both deserves better than that. Edit. Since poo mode has been activated, I can no longer comment without specifically messaging the mods to get them to approve said comment. I don't really feel like bothering them over and over again, so as much as I would like to continue engaging, I think I'll just leave things here. I appreciate all the feedback though. Thanks for the kind words and the knowledge lots of you have been providing.
Hey, all right. See, every once in a while we do get people that can be held accountable and fix it.
Correct. Feedback doesn't always mean that it's a negative thing.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and we seem to be dealing with the beginning of a small little age. Let's go to the very end and delve into the dark.
Uh-oh.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for bringing snacks to a funeral? I, 18 male, was recently mailed an invite to my grandma's funeral. She died 3 years ago, and only just recently was the funds for a funeral curated. The funeral was yesterday, and I brought a mini satchel with Baby Bell cheese wheels, as well as a package of salami and pepperoni. Growing up, I've always been on the heavier side. No matter how much I diet and exercise, nothing seems to work out, so it's led to somewhat of an order. My grandma was Native American, and my grandpa, who was overseeing the entire funeral, is painfully white. My entire extended family had an index card with like 5 different handwritings on it sent with every invite. They were rules that they wanted followed going through. Mainly, a lot of religious things, mixing her tribe culture with Christian values, etc. But one in a handwriting I didn't recognize said, "No food or drink to be brought on the premises." I assumed this to mean rats were a big issue. I thought if I just kept it all in my satchel, everything would be good. Maybe even go to the bathroom or something to not be seen. My older brother drove my sister and I 6 hours to get there. And it was a Christian church. Something my grandma would not have been happy with. She was cremated as wished, but a picture of her was in a coffin. I asked my aunt where the bathroom was, and she gladly showed me. I don't eat much. Eating big portions makes me feel awful, and deciding when to eat is also an issue. I usually carry around small snacks with me for spur of the moment, I'm eating now decisions. While in the bathroom, I hear a scoff and see my cousin's boyfriend. He was really upset I hadn't followed the rules about food on the property. I asked him if he made the rule. He said my cousin wrote it because his sister, 23 female, was going to show up, and she's on a water diet, and it would be rude to have food around her. It's not like she'd ever go into the men's room, though. My cousin is upset at me for being dietist and ableist because she's on this diet because of her own eating. She also never even showed up to the funeral. Am I the a-hole?
As a free action, can I use it to regret all of my life choices?
No.
Okay. So we'll get into some of the things that kind of bothered me with this story. Now, I understand and I am sorry about the order. At least they're aware of it, and hopefully they go forward and get some help. He leads us off in this story by saying that his grandfather is painfully white. I don't care what walk of life you're from. That said a lot to me. He says that there was a mixing of religions and that his grandmother wouldn't have approved of the funeral. Now, do we actually know that? Because it's only coming from him. So is it that your grandmother wouldn't have approved, or is it ROP doesn't approve of it?
That's a fair question.
At the end of the day, the way I feel, because I do understand if you've been to funerals, you would know they take a little bit. And a lot of the time, either refreshments are there or something there to hold people over. It depends on where you're from and what you do with your customs, but their rule for this funeral was no food allowed on the premises. So in my opinion, you are the a-hole. Now, the reason why it was instated, pretty dumb. Someone's on a water fast diet, and then you tell everyone that goes to this funeral that they can't eat or drink anything because of one singular person. I don't agree with that, even a little bit. I mean, even me saying that almost contradicts what I just said, but unfortunately, if those are the rules that they've put down for everyone, that's just kind of what you have to do, even if they are dumb.
Well, the consensus is very small because it's a very small swath of commenters that actually came through for this story. But it was the OP's the a-hole. Now, the reason why the commenters, from what I was reading through, were saying that they're the a-hole, a lot of people understand having an eating disorder. I think as we as a society has come through with being more communicative with each other, that a lot of people are more aware of eating disorders in the people that they're with and try to understand and assist or support people to overcome those types of disorders. However, I think where everything started going askew was exactly as you picked up, Timstradamus, the way that our OP sounds extremely racist against his own grandfather. To say that he's painfully white and then to go ahead and essentially shit on the funeral that the grandfather put together that took them 3 years to do. 3 years to save funds to do this one last remembrance of a loved one between families that are blended, because apparently they have a very different religious view compared to a Christian view, and they try to blend all of those qualities together. But our OP essentially shits on it. And it strikes a lot of our commenters wrong on that. It struck me wrong. I can't understand in my mind, and let me just put this into perspective here. Our OP, when his grandmother passed away, was only 15 years old. A lot of things are happening when you're 15. Our OP puts inside the comment section that his grandmother and grandfather were married together for over 50 years.
Wow.
A long time. That's a lot of commitment between two individuals. That's amazing. His grandfather loves his grandmother so much that he saved money to do a funeral. The fact that you would disrespect that type of loving remembrance is really despicable. All because you have a problem with one rule. If you had the problem with the funeral to begin with, it doesn't sound like you needed to be there because your intentions were not good to begin with. And it doesn't matter if you had an disorder or not.
At the end, they accepted the invitation, which means they accepted the rules.
Well, I can't wait to hear what our listeners think of this one. As I said, the swath of commenters was really small for this specific AITA story, and I'd like to hear some viewpoints on this. Let's go to our very last story of the day. Am I the a-hole for not letting my son go to homecoming over grades? My son lives with his dad and is a freshman in high school. His dad asked if our son could go to homecoming as it was on my weekend. I initially said no because I live an hour away and only see him 4 days a month. But his dad offered to switch weekends, so I was considering letting him go. However, I checked his grades and saw that he has a D in one of his classes. I emailed the teacher, and she said he has been on his phone in class and unfocused and not doing assignments complete. I texted my ex, who told me he has been working with the teacher, counselor, and assistant principal, and our son for the last 3 weeks, but the teacher has been relatively non-responsive, gives students zeros if they don't follow all instructions to a T, and takes forever to update grades after the students fix the problems. He told me he already turned our son's phone off during school hours as punishment, and the D is due to one 200-point assignment where our son received a 0 for not taking notes correctly in class, and he is working with the teacher to help him redo it and turn it in the right way, and the teacher allegedly said he could do this. He also claims he has been in contact with all of his other teachers and he is not acting up in their classes, and this instance was specifically when there was a sub in class. Needless to say, I have difficulty believing my ex, as I am sure he does not want to admit our son is not doing as great as he thought he would be in his care. My ex also is attributing our son's academic issues on being new to high school and the school district, and is blaming me for not having any oversight and enabling him the last 4 years, and him switching schools a few times, and that his last school district was not good, and he never learned any good study habits. Which is ridiculous because I tried very hard to get my son back on track when he was with me until my ex got the judge to move him to his district. Also, his dad is enabling him now by trying to get me to let him go to homecoming when he is almost failing a class. I texted my ex and my son and said absolutely not. No homecoming dance due to D and his bad behavior in class, that I will not reward bad behavior and bad grades. I also explained to my son that homecoming is for juniors and seniors anyway, and he will have the next 3 years to attend. My son is furious with me, and I feel bad, but at the same time, my work friends are telling me I am doing the right thing by disciplining him when his dad will not. Am I the a-hole?
Oh, mashed potatoes and molasses.
I love that show.
Okay. So let's get into this story, because I guess I'll start it with this. It sounds like ROP is on a vendetta to prove that her ex-husband is an unfit father towards their child. Now, whether or not that is true, maybe I'm assuming too much, but that's just what it sounds like from listening to this story. But I would like to ask, her biggest gripe right now is that the son got a D in a class. Was there other classes that he's also being deficient in?
Well, based on what our OP said in the comments, he had 2 Fs, and she says some A's and a C. But with his father, he only has 1 D, 3 B's or B pluses, and an A.
So wait a second. The grades go up, but 1D is a problem. Don't get me wrong. I don't like a D either, but the father explains why the son got a D. He did what all kids do. They see what they can get away with when the substitute steps in. I guess where I have my biggest question, knowing all of these facts, when the father does explain that, yes, the son did make a mistake, but they've corrected it. They acknowledged it. They reached out to other teachers to make sure nothing else was going on, that the grades do get reflected at a later date and it's not an instant thing. Why then wouldn't you just take it for what it was, outside of you're just looking for reasons to say that your ex-husband is unfit to take care of your child, when you just explained to me that under her care, he was failing? 2 Fs and a D and a C and a couple others? That's failing. And he's doing much better under his father's.
A's and B's and 1D.
Now, that can be a reflection of many different things. Environment. Yes, I think as a parent, you are responsible for making sure that your kids do well in school. It's not just on the teachers. In my opinion, OP, you are the a-hole.
Well, the consensus on Reddit was that our OP is the a-hole. And they kind of dig their own grave in the comment section, in my opinion, where you're right. They do say essentially the grades when her son moved in with their dad was that it went up, remarkably up. A's and B's with only 1D, that's great. And you make corrective steps for that D, but at least you know where the issue is and it's not just everywhere. For me, when a child has failing grades across the board, it's generally not a problem when it comes to the school itself, but it has a problem to do with behavior. Either they're getting influenced somewhere pretty badly, a bad crowd, or the home life isn't the best that it can be. And it takes away from being able to properly focus in and study. Now, not to say it's impossible. I'm just saying from my experience and what I've gathered. And she actually puts it in her comment section. Her ex had been telling her that he needs to stop hanging out with a bad group of individuals. And apparently this changed when he moved over to this new school district with his father, which is probably why his grades went up. Now, I think the hard part for me to hear, because I understand every mother wants to have their kids close by, but when I read our OP's comments, it makes it feel like a bitter pill that I'm swallowing. Because she goes, what am I to do when the judge says that my ex is better than me and my son testifies that he wants to live with his father instead? And every part of me says that doesn't sound like you're trying to think of what's best for your son. Sometimes the hardest decisions for your kids are ones that will hurt you, but will be in the long run the best ones for your children.
It's very true.
Now, do I say that it'll be easy? Of course not. She even goes on in her comments to explain that she's got a 1.5-year-old. So I imagine when her son was struggling in school and needing the proper attention, she was probably giving a lot of that attention to a 1.5-year-old because it's a small baby. But when you know that your kid's not getting the proper support, you have to make sure that your child gets it. And saying that you tried your hardest and seeing that the results aren't what you want it to be, I mean, it's rough. This one's just a rough one. I think in the end, a lot of Redditors came across with, look, your reason are pretty flimsy. You say that you would have let him go, but then you saw 1D, and now you're veering into a full different bracket of strictness that apparently is going to start alienating your son from you. When you only see him just 4 days in an entire month, that's not going to be a very good thing.
Sounds like it's more of a control problem that she's trying to exert control over the son still. I understand wanting to feel relevant as a parent and still have say in someone's life, but you've got to be able to do it rationally, remove the emotion from the decision making, because that's not rational. It sounds like your son is in a better space right now. Respect that. Understand that it's not about proving that you're a better parent than your ex. It's about doing and providing what's best for your child.
In the end, to put it simply, I chalk it up to weaponizing parenthood and authority.
She's going to learn, though. She keeps doing those type of things. She's going to push her son away from her.
Definitely.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Okay. hopefully they gave her some food for thought and she was able to work through that.
I hope so. It felt like on some comments when people clarified that they actually took the feedback in some of it. In
Good.
others, it felt like they were rebuffing. So it's a hard 50-50.
Hopefully they're able to step away from the story for a little bit, calm down, come back to it collected, and then start making better decisions going forward.
Agreed.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also like to thank all of our patrons for your support. We definitely appreciate it.
Yes, love y'all. And as always, listeners, we love hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today? And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.